Welcome to the Kayak Fishing Obsessed Podcast. We'll be sitting down with a fresh guest each week. Someone who shares the same kayak fishing passion that runs through our veins. We're talking kayak anglers, kayak companies, lure experts. Heck, anyone who's got a story to tell about landing the big ones from a kayak. We're setting our sights on becoming the #1 kayak fishing podcast in the world. You'll get a chuckle, a grin, and hey, maybe even a belly laugh. Because we believe in the power of humor. But above all, we're here to educate and inspire. So, whether you're a seasoned kayak angler or just dipping your toes into this exhilarating world, join us on the Kayak Fishing Obsessed Podcast. It's time to reel in adventure, camaraderie, and the joy of the catch. Here's your host, Daren Wendell.
All right, guys, welcome to the Kayak Fishing Obsessed Podcast, the KFO show. My name's Daren, I'm your host, and this show is brought to you tonight by the Wendell Fishing YouTube channel. So if you're listening in from the podcast and you never headed over there before, over 800 videos on the topic of kayak fishing. I would love to see you in the comments, guys. I can tell you what, I'm just pumped about tonight. This is episode number 43. This might be the one that I'm the most excited about to date. And I think it's just like the nostalgia that's going to take place tonight. I've talked to Chris a little bit before, and he knows a lot of the backstories on these bad boys. He's showing me things I've never even seen before. And so we're going to be talking about tonight the as seen on TV lures. We'll focus there, but who knows where we'll go, because he's got a lot of stuff and some other blasts from the past. Some fun facts. I resigned from my job today, so that's kind of interesting. So my life's a little wild and crazy at the moment. So more on that maybe later. But if you are listening in from the podcast, thank you. As you drive to work, one of my buddies I fish with, he's like, hey, me and my painting crew listen to this at work. So shout out to Nathan. Thank you, man. And yeah, you're listening to a top 10 podcast. So top 10% of all podcasts, Wendell Fishing, the KFO show, falls into that. So I'm pretty excited about that. If we can get over like 1,100 views per episode, we jump into the top 5% of all 5 podcasts. So pretty awesome. I got a new little counter over here. You guys see this? 29,600. That's brand new if you haven't seen that yet. And I'm like 8 away from hitting 29.7. So pushing toward 30,000. Been working on that for 2.5 years. So hopefully we'll get that here in the next month or so. One last thing before we bring Chris on. I want to thank the latest channel member, Boston Baits. Thank you, my man, for helping support the channel. All of that money that I got a ton of channel members. That all goes back into the channel. So I really don't make any money, but it goes back into making, the audio better, the video better, all that jazz. But enough of all that stuff. Let me introduce to you Chris from RetroBassin. Couple million views. Fishing it old school. Welcome to the show, brother. How you doing?
Hello, happy day. How you doing, man?
Doing well. You've been all over the country as well, right? You just moved from somewhere to somewhere. So tell us your story a little bit.
I did.
Retro started.
Well, I did move from one big bass fishing destination of Texas to another big bass fishing destination of Florida. So luckily, I think the fishing life is going to coincide with the life stuff. But yeah, pretty excited. And I'm in my home hallway now, as you can see. So pretty excited.
Wow.
So sort of my in-between studio. I've actually been filming from my garage a little bit for the old RetroBassin show.
I liked your backdrop. It took me back. I was watching some of your videos today. I was like, oh, man.
I like my backdrop, too.
I was hoping you were wearing your jacket today. That gem.
The thing about the rayon jackets, sort of the old school, is that they don't breathe. So they look great, look like $1 million, but you're in a full sweat. So if this is like a 4-minute podcast, we could be doing it. But the fact that we're doing the full 60 plus, it gets ugly quick. So
you could lose some weight. It's like wearing a
buddy
trash bag. So tell me the story of retro. how'd you fall into this? Why'd you start it? And like just the origin story. I'm always fascinated.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So first off, sort of what is RetroBassin? It's a YouTube channel that's dedicated to sort of the glory days of fishing, bass fishing sort of as a focus, but in general, any kind of fishing. Talking about the rods, reels, lures, and equipment from fishing days gone past. And for me, I've been fishing my whole life. I was actually in the fishing magazine industry for a number of years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was managing editor for a magazine called Big Game Fishing,
Okay.
and got out of that. But I always kind of longed for those first catches. I think it's those core memories we have as anglers. You know, that first panfish you caught. We probably could tell you what you caught it on. That first largemouth bass. And for me, it was those first trips to tackle shops, like the local tackle shops. The first time you'd walk in and you'd see a new lure hanging on the peg, and there was just so much promise and mystery of that lure. And you know, sometimes you catch on a fish on it, sometimes you wouldn't. But either way, that was it. You know, I remember the first Bass Pro Shops catalog I had. It was so old school that it actually had in the middle of it was the fax form. You had to fill it out by hand with a pen,
Oh,
and then you could
faxing.
either mail it in or fax it in. And I remember I had that Bass Pro catalog back when there was not like a Bass Pro within a half an hour of everybody. And I spent weeks mulling over my first order. You know, what pose superseder was I going to get? What shoestring Dubois, tornado spinnerbait, what Fred Arbogast lure? And I still remember the magic of when that first box from Bass Pro arrived, and I opened it up. And I think ever since then, I've been trying to recapture that first Bass Pro order, to be honest with you. So that's in a nutshell, kind of what the whole channel and vision's about.
Do you remember your first order, what it was?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I remember it was yeah, I think it was like the 1991 Bass Pro. I probably had a shoestring Dubois tornado spinnerbait. The Pose Superseder was out around that time. There were definitely some Bass Pro worms in there. And it was just these, again, the glory days when basically every big lure had a full page spread. They had some Bass Pro who just won the
infomercial
on it. Absolutely. The larger than life celebrities, you know, the Bill Dances, Jimmy Houstons, Roland Martins, all those guys. But I still remember, yeah, that first order. And it was like, okay. So, and I still have a few of those lures actually.
Wow. All right. Anthony Geis, he says, first time walking into a mom and pop tackle shop and hitting a strong huff of that power bait jars. The memory will be burned in my brain forever. Hey, if you're listening in, let us know.
Love
like
it.
your greatest nostalgic fishing memory that you have. We'll read through those.
And Anthony, recently I picked up a 4-pack of old school power baits, and I did it for a sort of a bank fishing episode with Realistic Fishing, and I had just a 4-pack of like the vintage formula, which does not smell like the modern day formula. So like I opened up that pack and 100% brought me right back. I'm like, oh, it was a sweeter, almost like peanut buttery. I'm like, oh man, I remember this. So it was a different, even that kind of stuff. It just sort of, again, sparks your memory.
Oh, I love it. Everyone's already throwing some of their TV words in here. Like flying lure. I've heard it earlier today. Flying lure.
Oh,
flying lure. We'll get to that. We will get to that. You were talking about the the old Bass Pro catalogs. Now, we were talking weeks ago when I asked you to be on the show. You're a hard guy to pin down, by the way. I worked for this one. This guy's like a elusive leprechaun, hard to find.
I'm elusive like a Yeti or like
there we go.
Yeah.
we found him. But like back in the day, well, you were telling me how they're like the collectibles. They're hard to find now, or they're even expensive. How like
I've ruined my own hobby in a lot of ways too. Probably the worst thing I can do if I actually want to collect something is do a video on it, because again, I end up fighting the old RetroBassin buds for a few eBay listings, we'll say. So,
oh, I love it. Well, I'm glad you're on the show. Guys, tonight we're going to be talking about the Lil Huey, the Johnson Budweiser Talking Frog, the Viking Electronic Lure Power Pack, Mighty Bite, Dance's Eels, Hedon Bid Bug, of course, the helicopter banjo and flying lure. I'm going to hear some of the backstories. But if you have one, I think the Sluggo I saw in your videos, you had some things you showed me beforehand. It just had me rolling. So let's go and hop in. Let's stop talking about some other stuff. We are here for the as seen on TV. So like set the stage, right? And then kind of roll out with everyone to roll out. I'm just along for the ride.
I would say this. So for me, I grew up in Silver Park, Maryland, and I had a lot of brackish water fishing. I fished the Severn River for striped bass and chain pickerel. But there was a little farm pond out in Howard County, Maryland. My uncle was a real estate developer out there, and he had a little like 3 to 5 acre pond, and he stocked it with largemouth bass and then never fished it. He never fished it. These were just like totally virgin waters. And so the first time I went out there, I think I'd never caught a bass, and I think within 3 hours I had about 25 that I caught. Just fish that never seen a lure. So I kind of got into lures and got into bass fishing, and one of the first ones that I saw on the peg that really kind of grabbed me, it was a little spot called the Tackle Box on Ritchie Highway. And there was this lure that I saw, and I've actually got this new in the package. I think I might have sent you one of these.
Oh, I've got it. That's one of my faves.
It was this. Yes. So this is called the Power Pack lure. And I saw this. This was actually an infomercial. I can't even find the infomercial now, to be honest with you. Okay. But this was developed by an attorney in Dallas, Texas, of all things.
An attorney.
And what this is, and I've got one out of the package, I'll show you, but it's got a pull string. So when you pull the sort of the back cast, it pulls the string. You cast the lure out there. When it lands, now it does that a little bit fast in the water. It's actually a slower maneuver, but it sort of vibrates like a cicada. And I've got one. This is a Power Pack lure out of the package. It sits like this. And for those listening in, it's got a cup like a pop bar. It's a little bit more concave. I would almost say more like a hula popper. It's going to really give a good gurgle. Yeah. And it'll sit there on its side. It's a bait fish with a plastic tail. And once it runs out of steam on that first one, you twitch it. And as you twitch it, it vibrates again, and probably vibrates at a little bit of a slower speed like this.
Yeah, because it's got resistance. Does it move or just kind of just flaps water?
It sort of moves. And one of the hacks they had on the infomercial, I recall, is it comes with a flat tail. You have to bend the plastic tail up and then twist the two fins like this. I don't know why. I think that was to maybe prevent it from spinning, was their theory. Okay. And there were these two dudes on a bass boat fishing somewhere. I'm not sure where they were, but they would throw this thing out there. And what's so cool about it is bass would just explode on it. And they would explode on it. Basically, cast it out there. And Buckskin Lake was that sort of the virgin waters where I'd fish with this thing. And if you got there like about an hour before sunset and you threw this thing 5 foot off the bank, just the absolute insane strikes that I would have on this thing that blew my mind. So there was that lure. And then they also had this one, which you don't have. This is the Power Pack Frog. Oh, okay. And so for folks listening, this looks like a frog body, but it's got two legs, but the same principle.
It looks like a monkey.
It looks like a bath toy. I gotta be honest. It looks like a bath toy. But I saw this thing on the peg. I saw this honestly insane packaging. I mean, just look at that. It's a bass behind there. It's got Power Pack. You can pull the string, and I was hooked. So I bought it. Well, fast forward, I had some bassin buds over who were hitting doing some trespassing, as I call it, fishing where you're not supposed to on the eastern shore. And we hit this pond where the guy said, hey, we got like an hour here before we get kicked out. But I caught probably then it was a 3 or 4 pounder on this lure. And for many years, that was my PB, was on this goofy, as seen on TV lure. So it's always had sort of a special place in my heart. I need to do a full-on episode on the history of this bait. And recently, I did actually have it in Florida. I was over on Orange Lake with my bassin buddy, Ted Lincoln, who's also got a channel. And he caught the biggest bass of the day on the Power Pack, like right before sun went down, like literally the last of 3 casts that he made.
Boom. There it is. So it's not a gimmicky thing. Picks up bass. And
it did. It did pick up bass. It was patented, and I think eventually Chuck Woolery got another version of this, and they sold it out. And that's the one a lot of people know. But yeah, that is the Power Pack shad, and that was sort of the first sort of as seen on TV / gimmick lure that I saw. And I still remember seeing that thing in the tackle box in Severno Park, Maryland, when I picked it up. And the first time bass hits that, you just go nuts.
Oh, I bet. Here's the back of it a little bit. I love like marketing from the from years past. Here's the first sentence. Congratulations, you purchased the most technologically advanced and exciting surface lure ever produced. Hey,
always.
Maybe at that time it was. Yeah, always. 7 lures in one, 15 lures in one. That's what I loved back then. My goodness. All right, the power pack. That was actually when you sent me the box and I got all the stuff sitting around me. This might have been my favorite to get out there and try, because I'm gonna bend the tail. I'm gonna do it all, and I'm gonna catch my personal best on this.
Oh, it's a honey of a bait.
Oh my gosh, so good. Ingenious. This is this is my favorite. All right, let's move on. What else you got in your?
So let's see here. So that was one of the big as seen on TV lures. And there was some that I kind of got into later. So here is one that came out. Yum came out with this a few years ago. But do you know what this thing is?
Is this Dance's eel?
So I sent you the Yum version of Dance's Eel.
Oh, this is not the Dance's Eel.
It is the Dance's Eel, but this is the original. We see a young Bill Dance there. By the way, look at
very young.
What is he wearing? Is that plaid? I mean, that is just, he's like ready for like a disco or something. But anyway, there's Bill Dance. And so there is the lure, and it's the incredible Dance's Eel. So this is one of the craziest baits ever. It's obviously just for reasons we know. It's a crankbait with the eel tail. Yeah, that's weird. It's this weird hydrofoam material.
Yeah.
It is soft. But here's what's wild about this thing. It actually sinks. So this is a sinking bait.
With treble hooks on the bottom.
It fishes insanely well. So as you reel this thing in, it's got just the most crazy eel action. Bill Dance was, when he came out with this, this was, I think, from Hydrofoam. And I believe if you bought this, you got a free bottle of sparkle scales, or the other way around. But that was also his product back in the day, was this one and sparkle scales. And at one point, I think they sold 1 million units of sparkle scales. Yeah, they made.
So is that what I see on here? I don't know if you guys can see that, but I've never seen sparkle scales before. So it's just a liquid you put on there and it dries.
So they've actually come back out with one called Bait Pop, which shows up on a live scope. But sparkle scales was basically developed by a pharmacist, and he got in business with Bill Dance under the name of Keeper Bait Company.
Okay.
And it was a fish formula, but inside was sort of like Goldschlager. They had these scales. So you'd shake it up, and then in theory, when you put it on the bait, you throw the bait in the water, the scales disperse like a fish just got hit, like a bait fish. And it was supposed to elicit a reaction from the game fish. So that was a whole nother
follow the logic.
Yeah.
You think it worked? I don't know. I mean, I can follow the logic at least. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to when I pulled this out. I've never seen one before, and I was just like, "What in the world?" Because it didn't have packaging on it, so I just pulled it out of the box.
Little mystery thing, a little mystery.
Like it literally is like 4-in-1 lure. And then I think I watched your video, and as it sunk too, I was like, crazy.
Oh yeah, I got some underwater footage of this thing. So and for a while, look at this. It came in a pack.
Oh,
like this is the old Bill Dance eel pack. I've seen one of these ever. I picked it up. So it's like it's got all the different sizes and shapes of the old Dance's Eel.
How many bass have you caught on that?
So I got to be honest with you. So I have not caught a ton of bass on this. I've actually caught other species of fish, striped bass and pickerel. Sort of in the column of too many lures, too little time. So
I hear you there.
You should see my backlog of like I need to dedicate a day to each of these lures because they're just so goofy and crazy. And sometimes I'll throw a lure and it doesn't perform as you think. So like, here's one. I showed you this on sort of the green room. We're kind of getting ready for this. So this I recently picked up at an NFLCC meeting. And for those who don't know what the NFLCC is, it is the National Fishing Lure Collectors Club. And it is one of the coolest organizations out there. So these guys get together. I think they have, somewhere from 6 to 12 meetings nationally per year. Just a bunch of old school lure collectors get around. They swap lures in their hotel rooms and then have a convention center. So I picked this up there. So what is the name of this thing? So this is a mill site lure, and it is called the Daily Double. And I would put this in the category of gimmick lures, and here's why. So it's got 2 different line ties. So it's sort of a boomerang-shaped lure. This line tie is for supposedly a deeper running bait, and this one, because of the position of it, is a shallow running bait. So in theory, you just spend all your money on one lure instead of two. And if you want like a medium diver or a shallow diver, this is the bait. But when I threw this thing out, this is hard. This thing does not run well at all. I mean, this thing runs like 1987, like Acura after like hit a curb. It does not run well. So this is one where it's like, okay, I got to figure out how to fish this thing. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, but I was so excited to get this on the lake, and then I threw it. I'm like, no, this ain't working.
that color. Wow.
Oh, it's a honey of a bait. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna either scare every fish in the lake or attract every fish. I don't know which.
I love it. That's nice. So, like, did you trade something for that?
So this one, I think I picked this one up for like $10.
Oh, all right.
So yeah, in the room trading. So and it's one of the weirdest things ever. So basically, everyone sets up, all the lure collectors show up, and they convert the hotel room into a tackle shop. Lures on the dresser, lures on the bed, and they open the door. And you walk in, it's the greatest thing ever. And you walk in and you can just kind of either trade or buy or whatever. And that's it's
I feel
wild.
like someone's like opening up their jacket and be like, hey, you want to buy some
I'm sure there's different conventions like that. Yeah, but this is the lure building one. So that's where I picked that one up.
That is awesome. What's so what's the most expensive lure you ever came across? Like,
okay.
In the story behind it.
I'm gonna show it to you.
Oh, you have it.
All right, 1 second. Hold on. Like, give me like 2 seconds. I'll pull it up.
Yeah. Heck yeah. I'm gonna go over here and read some of the comments. Oh, Small Water Charters says Roldan's a great guy. He's been cool making friends with childhood hero.
Ooh, okay, I'll put my most expensive lure aside for a second. So Roland Martin.
Yeah.
You threw the helicopter lure.
Oh, I just had a video I posted on the helicopter lure. Like,
so how did it go for you? Because did your experience vary from mine? Because I haven't fished with Roland, and that's one of, again, my sort of bucket list things is to see him on Headwaters Lake or Okeechobee. But there's the kit. Yeah, okay.
The kit, because I found my kit at a flea market, new in box in the plastic. So I unopened it.
Oh,
like a time
look at that.
capsule.
That's nice.
And a video. And then I was like, okay, you guys see the crazy? I'm gonna open this for you. I know you can kind of see through the plastic, but I don't fish non-natural colors. And so I had very limited.
So this wasn't your first choice?
No, it wasn't my first choice, and this wasn't my second choice.
The old methylate nightmare. You didn't want that one. Look at this. I mean, it's so crazy. Roland had 5 colors to pick. What? Yeah. This was one of them.
Yeah, I don't. I'd like to be a part of that meeting. I need to ask whenever I meet him, like, hey, when you guys are in the meeting choosing colors, can you walk me through your logic on that? Because there's 2 I want to fish out of here. So I hooked up this guy.
Yeah, the white's a nice one. So I have caught a fish on the helicopter lure, and it's funny is so I was watching a video of Roland Martin hanging out with Bill Dance and Jimmy Houston at, I think it was a Bass Master Classic, but those guys rib him incessantly about this lure.
Real?
Oh, they just, well, like any good as seen on TV lure, it's got to catch everything from bluegill to blue marlin. And they end up jumping the shark literally at some point because that's where you get a niche lure like this, which probably was honestly really good for fishing hydrilla, where Roland was throwing this thing, but all of a sudden they go, oh, I wonder if this could catch a mahi. Probably not, but let's try. I wonder if this could catch a muskie. And with any as seen on TV lure, it's got to be it's got to catch everything that swims, right? Every level of angler. And I think that's where a lot of the as seen on TV lures, and there's one we're going to get into today, which I think was a great lure, but it kind of geared itself toward the wrong, we'll say, skill set of angler. But this was, I think, in certain situations, a really good lure. But again, Roland gets ribbed incessantly, but he still catches fish on this thing, for sure.
So he's still fishing it to this day.
Oh, he is. And my buddy John,
he's owning it for life at this point.
Oh, yeah, I think he is. And he's done a video with it. And so one of sort of now that I'm here living in the state of Florida, next time I get down to see my Bassin buds, John and Lindia, who've got a great channel called Small Water Charters, they see Roland a pretty good bit. I actually missed him on the water. I saw his truck, left a note.
Okay.
Kind of creeped him out, I'm sure. But I want to see him on the water. I want to ask him about this bait and a couple other Roland Martin signature baits. But I definitely need to catch a big old Florida bucket mouth on this thing at some point.
So my experience on this thing, which I just realized, I was like, what's in the middle? And I forgot I put the nail weight in.
You did? Okay.
I did.
Keep
because
it
I
down.
wanted to. When I was fishing, I did this. I'm setting up for the video. I did the unboxing. I was like, hey, let's take this out to the lake, see if we can pick any bass up. First cast, nail one. I caught probably 15 bass over the next 2 hours on this. I'd throw it out, put the nail weight in, and it does what it does in the video. It just slowly starts to go down. And for whatever reason that day, they were popping it. And you can see it on the video. It wasn't like, hey, I pop, 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 pop. It was actually, I was like, are you kidding me? First cast? Am I going to have to like put this in my arsenal? Because I will. I'll fish a freaking baked potato if it picks up fish consistently.
That's
so
amazing.
I don't know. So I'm a fan. The white. I haven't tried any other ones. The glitter looks good. The silver glitter. This guy.
So the silver glitter, the gold down this way would be good. I guess my question is, so for me, it was Line Twist City when I don't know that it's like a Guns N' Roses song, take me down to Line Twist City. But I don't know what happened, if these were like old swivels or they're gummed up, but mine, I'd put a couple casts in and then I'd have to basically let it unspin. I don't know if you had that issue.
I'm not. Look, mine's going pretty good.
See,
did yours do that?
No. I think
mine was new in box, so it didn't have. It was like I pulled it out of the plastic from 1994. So
mine was old in box. So maybe I need to crack open. I do have some like this now.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I think you might have one of those as well. This is more of a display piece.
This is the gold in there.
Now, what are the odds that Roland actually caught this fish on the old? That's a monster.
That's like the classic fish I see in just about every picture that I see of him.
Yeah,
what I was actually, and I shouldn't have been surprised. Whenever I cast this thing, it helicoptered in the air and like slowed down because it caught air, and I was like, oh, it was just bizarre to me. Anyways.
Well, I remember it was a Strike King buzzbait. I think it was like the Tri-Wing or something like that. And that one I had a hard time casting because it had 3 blades. Unlike a normal buzzbait that's just got the single blade, it had like a third one. And that thing would helicopter for me in the air. I remember I had a hard time casting that. So I could see that with the helicopter. I don't know that a lot of bass pros are throwing this one today, so they may not have that issue on the old circuit. But
hey, there you go. Someone asked me, Lost and Tackle, are you going to throw that gunner's bill? I got a tournament down there. And against like Chad Hoover and Fluke Master and fishing with Grams and Alex Rudd. We're all going to go down there and fish off our teams. And so I don't know what I'm going to bring. I got some people making me as like some custom baits for that particular bait fish in that body of water. So we'll see what happens. Are you telling me I should be bringing whatever the crap this thing is?
I know what you're going to bring. I think I sent you one of these.
You did. I still don't know how to put it together. So it came like this. So
first off, I would say this. I'd get your insurance card head ready because you might be going to the ER if you try to work on this thing, just because this is one of the most dangerous spinnerbaits I've ever seen. So this came.
So for those on the podcast, walk us through what you're holding in your hand.
So this came from Night Lures. And what does this say? The not like any other spinnerbait. So Night Lures, gentleman by the name of Wayne Kent, who recently passed away in Tyler, Texas. He ended up taking over Cream Lures. I think Wayne was one of the great unsung, crazy lure inventors out there. His ideas were great. I don't think they really took off, but this one is called the King Tongs. And if you can see by the image here, the theory is when you're throwing a spinnerbait, sometimes the fish hit the bait. Occasionally, they'll hit the blade.
Right.
Well, the trouble is if they hit the blade, there's not a hook in it. Well, the King Tongs it supposedly solves that issue because there's a hook in the blade.
Look at that.
And that's the blade that fell off. Yes, I think it must have been a little piece of plastic. So in theory, if a fish hits here, you've got them.
You got them.
If a fish hits the blade, you've hooked them.
You got them.
And odds are if you try to lip a bass, you're going to hook yourself. So that's it's a win-win-lose. The King
Have you
Tongs.
ever caught anything on this thing? The King Tong is what it's called?
So I have. So I've thrown there's a couple spinnerbaits that are semi-similar to this. And I threw this one. I did catch a fish, but it was on the bottom hook. So I couldn't really test whether or not the theory held true. But man, imagine if you actually did catch one on the top hook. It would be such validation for the design because you would know you would not have had that fish.
So definitely getting it through the bottom of the lip. That'd be bizarre.
Well,
you get them to the top.
it'd be a lot. It's a lot going on here. So yeah, it's basically, and for folks listening, the bottom part of the spinnerbait's normal, but at the eyelet, it turns into another hook.
Yeah.
And then the spinnerbait blade swivel is attached to the bend of that hook.
And it's a Colorado blade, so it's
a Colorado blade. So yeah, this thing is, I would say, this thing vibrates like crazy. My Toyota 4Runner's got about 350,000 miles, and it doesn't vibrate as much as the spinnerbait. So this thing, reeling it through the water, the whole thing is just shakes like crazy.
I want to read the back. I got to read the back of this. All right. It's really short. This lure solves the problem found in conventional spinnerbaits. When a fish strikes, you got him. You simply miss less fish, and it's almost impossible for a fish to throw the bait. If it tries to shake the main hook free, it'll be nailed by the spinner hook.
and the unlucky bass angler who tries to lip a fish too quickly will also be blessed with a nice, old school J-bend hook in their thumb. Yeah.
The night.
So there was that spinnerbait, and then I don't know if I sent you one of these, but this is another one. And again, Night Lures eventually went on to purchase Cream. And so this is called the Bump and Go. And I do recall this from the old school Bass Pro Shops catalog. So this is a spinnerbait. And I've got this out of the package.
Oh, okay.
It's got a rudder
on here.
And what's so crazy about the gimmick lures is we make fun of them while they're here. And all of a sudden they show up in Japan as like some lure that you got to spend $80 for. So this is a spinnerbait with a rudder. And it can actually move. So you set the rudder to which way you want this thing to go.
Okay.
And it will actually track to the left or the right, depending.
Oh.
So it's a spinnerbait.
So give me an application. So you'd want to.
Yes. Okay. So the application would be. So we're throwing against the dock. Yep. And I don't know about you, but I whenever I'm thrown against a dock, either I hit the dock or I cast like too far off it. So this thing, if you cast to the base of the dock, you can set the lure so it keeps tracking into the pilings.
Dock.
So throwing against that, throwing against a seawall, throwing against some tulies. In theory, this thing would track. And I think actually Depths in Japan came out with a different bait that tracked. But the idea of a tracking bait isn't necessarily new, but this is one of the first ones I recall where you can actually track the bait left or right. And this is one I have not done an episode in. This is sort of in the TBD file. But yeah, isn't that wild? So that's the Bump and Go spinnerbait. But this one was mainstream enough to be in the Bass Pro catalog at some point.
Oh, okay. So I could follow the logic on that. So if you're fishing some riprap, you want to make sure that you keep on hitting and making
if you're fishing some riprap or something like that, yeah, for sure.
Ding, 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 ding. I don't know. It'd have to be like the perfect scenario to break that thing out. I don't know. I like it. I'd try it out. I think it'd be a blast to just try it out. So fascinating. I mean, how often do you come up along a dock that's 70 feet long? I know I don't up here.
No.
All right. Woo. All right. What else you got in your bag of tricks? This is great.
Well, let's see here. So what other things? So you mentioned the video we did on the top 10 as seen on TV lures. What's so funny about that is that was just, me and my, studio thinking about, all right, what are the lures I recall? So a classic one that came out, I don't know if this was ever as seen on TV, but I put it in that category because it's a total novelty lure, was this one from Hedden, the old Big Bud.
Okay, so for those listening in, like walk us through what this is.
So this is basically a beer can with a crankbait lip on it. It's got a pair of treble hooks and it's got a blade on the back. And so I will... So I'll zoom in real quick here so you can see. So there's the lure itself. I don't know if you can see where it says Budweiser.
Yeah.
And it's got a crankbait head here. And so what this thing basically fishes like is like a big giant wake bait. It actually does not dive that deep. And this blade does not have a spinner. It actually is a flapping blade.
It just flaps.
And it flaps like this. So it is one of the craziest wake baits that you can throw. Came out with Budweiser. For folks who aren't into Budweiser, they certainly did have a Coors original, the old banquet beer, right? And this one I picked up.
Come out with?
So, okay. So here's what's wild about some of the U.S. baits. This is why I kind of, I'm always on Instagram or eBay looking at what the Japanese direct market's doing. So this is a lure that kind of came and went in the U.S. I don't think anybody ever fished it seriously, but in Japan, they have probably thousands of versions of the Big Bud.
What?
Here's one of them. So look at this.
What am I looking at?
I don't. It's a big bud with some sort of
Japanese
writing on it. Yeah, I don't know. And just they had tons of this version of this bait in all kinds of different things. So this was a bait that took off that, you know, in the JDM market. And yeah, there's guys who throw it. There's definitely guys I follow that actually will still go out there and throw old school headings like this one and catch some pretty nice bass on them.
Wow. You would think that would go underwater with how big that lip is.
So it does, but look at the eye tie. So the eye tie is really close to the nose, not real deep. So it really just almost, it goes underwater, but not that far. Yeah. And it's a monster. Now this is one where I've done some underwater footage of this one. I have not spent a hardcore day with the old big bud in a while. I've caught some fish on it years ago, but nothing on film. So this is one in the TBD column.
Here's a question for you. I would imagine if I was starting a retro bait kind of YouTube channel, I would want to catch a fish on every single, you do a video, you go out, catch a fish on it. You do a video, go out and catch a fish on it. Is that what you're doing?
All right. So
he laughs at me, folks.
No, well, one of the challenges was, so when I first started the channel, I had a GoPro Hero 3. And yeah, that was going to be my channel. And I had the first 10 episodes written. And it was going to be that format where I go out there, I catch a fish on a lure, and I talk about it. Now, not only am I using antique lures, the longest rod I've got is a 5-foot 6-inch pistol grip rod. The most up-to-date electronics I've got on my boat, because I outfitted it old school, is a Tom Mann Humminbird Super 60 flasher. So in an era I couldn't find my way around a live scope. So I've got a few, we'll say, natural limitations with my angling ability. You put in the equipment, this whole idea of going out there. And again, I had some tough days in the water. I've got some lures that I've taken a half dozen times. Like I need to do an episode on this lure. And so that's where I kind of, when I can do that, I do. Sometimes I'll transition and just kind of do an unboxing or a history of, because yeah, it's a bit of a challenge to go out there. If you go out there with nothing but the old big bud tied on, you're either going to be hero or zero. And you know how that goes.
You need to find a buddy in Florida who has a private lake they stocked years ago and no one's fished it. That's what you need right there.
I need the Bill Dance, Guggen Squad lake. I need something like that.
Yep. Yeah. So if you live down in Florida, I don't even know where you live. What city are you in?
So right now I'm in Northeast Florida, which is basically Georgia, but I've got some bass and buds in Gainesville. I've got some down near Okeechobee. So rest assured, we've got some very bassy waters. Now, are they bassy enough that I could catch something on this?
Oh, well, a Canadian duck. What's the action? It just sits in the water. I don't see anything that would create action on that.
Honestly, I'm 90% sure this thing sinks. This was from the old 1985 Bass Pro catalog back in the novelty lure section. Most lures that they had on that page, I probably couldn't show because I don't want you to get demonetized. But this was right next to Uncle Buck's calendar. But this was one. This is called the quack wrap or something like that. And it's a duck. Obviously,
for those listening, it's a duck. It looks like it's flying.
I mean, that's literally it's like a little mold of a duck with a couple of treble hooks oddly placed, and
it also looks like someone made a toy factory and it used to be a jet and they just repainted it and it looks like a duck.
This is called the shad quack. That's what this is called, and it's a 3-inch mallard.
Yeah,
that's it. It doesn't rattle. Again, it's heavy, so I'm 90% sure it sinks. So this would be one if you really had the helicopter lure bite on, or my first trip to Buckskin where I'm catching 25 fish in 3 hours. This might be one to throw on to see if you could get, because what kind of footage that would be, huh?
Where do you get all these things? Do people know that you do this and they just send you stuff now? How's this work?
It is. I definitely get a little bit of that, and I just kind of have an eye for stuff. And then again, I type in as seen on TV lure and into eBay, and you'll be amazed at what you find.
Yeah, half of them are yours, right?
Probably half of them are mine.
Yeah, there you go.
Half of them are mine. So let's see. So we had the top 10 list. Another one, and this is one that I need to fish, but okay. So this will be the predecessor to the next lure. So this one Any idea what this thing is? And the clue is in this little bite out of the fish.
All right.
So this
For
is
those
called
listening in, I'm looking at a very long swim bait.
a
with
very
red.
long, awkwardly molded, oddly hooked swim bait with a giant chunk out of the belly.
Well, it's hooked like a banjo minnow.
It is hooked like a banjo minnow, and that's gonna be the next thing. So this was a ripoff, I think, of the banjo, but this is called the Mighty Bite.
The mighty, there it is.
And so I think the theory here was it's got a little half-inch bite out of it, colored red, like Jaws came up and bit this thing or nipped at it. And supposedly this is a fish sees this that's supposed to mimic a fish that just got attacked and is really ripe for the killing.
Oh yeah, put some of the Dance's glitter on it, and it'll be perfect scenario.
And it's got a cavity. So look at that. It's got a little cavity. And here's what's wild about it. You can either add, I think this is sort of like a little blood pellet that maybe turns red in the water, and it's like a blood trail.
Oh, really?
You could add a rattle.
A rattle. All right.
You could add, I think that's just the weight, maybe. So yeah, you could add whatever you want to the Mighty Bite. So this looks like, I think you could catch a fish on this. I think you'd probably have to swap out the circle hook. I don't know why it's got a circle hook on there, but hey,
catfishing. What's going on?
So yeah, it looks like, but basically a sort of a low end swim bait of some sort. But the whole claim to fame was it's got this bite out of it, which is supposed to make it look ultra, realistic.
Bucktail says they work. The old man and I used them back in the day. More or less a fluke without the forked tail. I love it. And if you guys have any history fishing this, let us know in the descriptions. I'll read it. I'm fascinated. I really like the blood trail little insert there.
The
if
blood
you're gonna
trails,
go all in with the bite, you might as well throw a blood trail in there as well.
You might as well. But the lure you mentioned that looked similar to is this, and I think I sent you one of these as well.
You did.
There we go.
But I wasn't familiar with the iteration, so I need to hear the story.
I want to see the one you've got.
So I believe, and you're going to correct me. This is what I wanted to have you on partially for tonight, because I believe these are the OG. Maybe not.
Nope, that's OG. Yep. And
okay. Yeah. So these are originals. And so I got a couple.
That's tough bait.
Oh shoot. I have a yellow one in here, and they're changing on my white one's yellow. Note to self.
Ooh, separate those.
Not good. I got to separate them. No. Look at this stupid thing. This is not OG, because look at these side by side. See how it has a fat head on it? There's no way that they're.
Oh yeah, look at that. Okay.
It's like twice the size. And then I have this guy. So these are about 2.5 inch, folks listening on the podcast. And this one's like greenish. I don't know if you can see that. And it has like a little bit of red for blood.
Ooh, look at that.
You don't have this?
I don't have that one.
I'll have to send you some. So
no,
my buddy,
I don't.
John, I did a poll on my community page, and he's like, hey, I bought like a ton of these on eBay years ago. I'll send you some. I'm like, all right, I'll do a video. And fished them same day I fished the helicopter lure, and as you can imagine, picked them up. I probably caught another 10 fish on the banjo minnow. They're just slamming it.
So how'd you fish it?
Right next to this laydown. I read the back of the package.
Okay.
And as they tell you, to make the BIMs make it swim, use a succession of 3 to 4 very quick jerks in a rhythm, and let that sit in the laydown. Pop, pop, pop. No longer than a foot long. Nailed it. And the video actually that one just launched like Sunday, so that's like a brand new video that I just launched. So if you're interested in seeing that and breaking down how it's all hooked up, you can go check that out. All right, what do you have?
So this is the new version of this bait. So this bait, actually first, it's kind of wild, but this bait I put in my top 10. I actually ranked this at number 2 at the time, and it's probably a debatable point. And I ended up getting a little bit of gentle flack from the now owner of the company, a guy by the name of Ken Carey. And so here's the story with this bait. This is one of the coolest as seen on TV lures. This is right up there with the flying lure, and those are the two, right? Alex Langner's flying lure and the banjo minnow. So this was developed in Maine by a guy by the name of Wayne Hockmeyer. And he was an angler up there, and he was a guide, and he got into professional bass fishing. He found that he was kind of settling in the middle of the pack for tournaments. Wasn't doing super well. And he was also a hunter. And he noticed the way that dying animals were basically attacked. If a predator saw that an animal was injured, acted like it was dying, it would get attacked first. So he came up with this design, and this is, nowadays we kind of look at this and go, oh, that looks like a fluke. It looks like this. This wasn't done at the time. So what he did is he took the hook out of the bait. There's no hook in it, so that the backbone is out of the actual minnow itself. And he did that by putting in a screw-in little metal nose ring and a hook, so that when you fish this bait, it just dies. And if you kill it, like I'm sure you did, it just kind of sinks like a dying minnow. So he had this idea. He goes, okay, I need to market this thing. He wants to go at, I think that the flying lure had just come out probably the year before, and he wanted to, not necessarily go the tackle shop route. So ended up getting a hold of this guy by the name of Ken Carey, who was making infomercials out in California. And the first thing he said is, well, Ken, you got to come fish with me. So Ken flew to Maine. They fished for smallmouth bass, and they absolutely slayed the bass. So they're like, okay, we're going to go the full-on infomercial route with this. They're going to do the underwater footage, the testimonials, all that stuff. And they ended up going to the, I think it's the Harrisburg, I think it's the Eastern Outdoor Show in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And back in the day when they had the old hog trough, remember it was that like 5 foot by 20 foot tank. And it was filled up with like a dozen bass that had probably seen lures cast all day long. And those fish, they might kind of snip at something, but they don't feed them. But then also too, they do get numb to it. Eventually they see like the 8th jig come by and like, okay.
Yeah.
So Ken and the inventor Wayne went to the show, and I think it was like day 3. Fish had been getting whipped on, but they had like camera crew. They probably had thousands of dollars investment. Like, how's this going to go? And so Wayne gets up there, he throws the banjo, and the first cast, he had, I think, 4 or 5 hits.
Oh, geez.
And they're filming everybody. And it's some of the most just, and again, by daytime, I'm a salesman, so I appreciate a good sales pitch. They film all of these people watching this thing. And these people have been, and they're mesmerized. And so Wayne gets up there and he fishes. And eventually he says, okay, he pulls some guy from the crowd. Some guy says, hey, you come on up here. That guy fishes. He catches fish. So then after that happens, they just go around and they just interview everybody. And there was one guy, I remember this. He goes, they're going to have to outlaw this thing because there's not going to be any fish left in the ocean to catch. And as someone who films, you want to get, sort of that like cha-ching moment. I asked Ken, I'm like, what did you think when he said that? He's like, oh yeah, cha-ching. Like, that was the one. We're going to have to ban this lure because it's too effective. Like, okay.
They toasted that night over beers after that guy came out of the audience. My goodness.
They did. So that lure, I would say you've got the OG version. It kind of fell by the wayside. At one point, it was the #1 selling lure in the U.S. And then it went away.
Like 2 years.
A couple years. It was hardcore. Yeah. It was like the infomercial was everywhere. They had a couple different versions that did not hold up. If you go to eBay, if you see one with Babe Winkleman, that's a good version to put on the shelf, but it does not. If you open it up, the plastic is so brittle, you can't even fish with it. But Ken ended up buying the company. Wayne passed away, but this is the new version, and he sent me some of these. So actually, we went fishing with this, and it actually caught fish. So it was kind of cool. Yeah. So similar. So the one that I sent you probably performs. So that looks like the new one in a watermelon shad pattern, and that was pretty cool.
Nice. I haven't taken these out yet, so I just got them last week. But
so the only thing is, I would say there's certain lakes where the hooks. I probably, depending on where you're fishing. Now you do need a light hook because too heavy of a hook, it's going to sink too fast. But there's certainly, I'm sure, some largemouth bass in Florida that might put a hurting on this little hook.
So the business is still rocking and rolling today. It's still alive today.
So they came back out. Yeah, I did a video. My son, it's so funny, but I'm a pretty antsy fisherman. That's why I'm not a good worm fisherman. I'm just too antsy. Yeah. But kids, they go out there, they take a lure, they're willing to let it sink. So my son caught his PB bass. I think it's like a 4 or 5 pounder he got on the banjo.
Nice.
Just because he was like, but we watched the footage. He cast out there. He just let it sink for ever. And then all of a sudden, pink.
Bam.
Yeah.
Popped it. Oh, that's awesome. So I had something you sent me, and I was like, what in the world when I opened it up? And you haven't talked about it yet. What is this guy right here? So those of you listening on the podcast, it's essentially a Texas rig worm, already pre-rigged, the bullet weight. But then when you get to the top, you got this kaleidoscope thing that is curled up. And it looks like whenever you pull it, this sparkle magic, like it's supposed to grab the attention of a bass or something. I don't know. What's the story on this thing? It's called... Here's it in the package. You sent me 2 of them.
I did send you one. I just wanted to put you through heck so you'd fish for that for a day and be like, what am I doing? So that lure, first off, it's so aggressive. I think that would scare a barracuda. I mean, it's got like a 1 ounce bullet head sinker on it. It's got wire. It's got that kaleidoscope. It probably broke, right? Yeah, that's okay.
No, it's so good. It's just like gooey.
Look at that thing.
The hardware on this thing is heavy.
So I got to be honest with you, I haven't thrown that for obvious reasons. So I think what you're looking at is a 7-inch flip tail worm. So that is an old school, sort of looks like a man's jelly worm.
Yeah.
It's got a single Texas rigged hook on it, probably a 1/2 ounce sinker, and it's got that kaleidoscope, which I guess is supposed to emulate some sort of bait. I mean, I want some underwater footage of that sucker.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna have to be fishing in like 20 feet of water, otherwise you're just gonna be.
I need to catch a fish on this.
Look at that.
This is amazing. Can you imagine?
I mean, that thing was. I mean, as seen on TV, that thing wasn't even made for radio. I mean, that thing never. I don't even know where.
BA angler is like, is that a wind chime? Maybe. I don't know.
I feel like that is a wind. It's like the Bill Dance wind chime. I have no idea.
You sent me 2. This looks like you're trying to get rid of them. You must have a bunch. So I was watching some of your videos. Move away from the lure for a second. But it seems like a lot of your videos are going to like old mom and pop tackle shops. I didn't actually watch one because I was too busy resigning from my job today. But like that's kind of your thing, it seemed like, for the past 5 videos or so. Is that what you do? Like what's the rhythm there?
So I think one of the reasons I got into the YouTube thing, and honestly, as someone who YouTubes, you know that my tackle bills, generally outweigh the old YouTube payments, right?
Always.
But what I saw was that there was a lot of YouTube content, and honestly good content, can't hate on it, dedicated to new stuff, dedicated to the big box stores, dedicated to mystery tackle boxes. And there are some great, not many, unfortunately these days, but some great mom and pop shops up there. Some great, again, small time lure builders, people who have dreams, who just don't have, sort of the big company behind them. And they're just getting zero airplay on YouTube and other mediums. So to me, I was like, hey, so I had a couple YouTubers who were doing some different ones. Monkey Balls does some really good walkthroughs. Baitman TV did a really good one of this place called Mike's in Decatur, Illinois. And it got me thinking. And when I drive past some of these places, it's amazing. They're not on people's radar. I've got one place I found down in South Texas that it's so old school. It's at the guy's house, and he only takes
Heck yeah.
He only takes cash, and he doesn't ship. And so for me, it was kind of like a little bit of capturing the history of these places before they're gone. Because at some point, again, these are like even 3rd generation shops. The 4th generation is generally not interested in doing this. So anytime I drive by, and for work, I'm traveling all over the place, coast to coast. If I see one, I stop at it. Or if somebody drops a comment and says, hey, go check out this one. Years ago, I got, somebody in the comment section said, oh, check out this place called Bacon's Tackle in Shreveport, Louisiana. Okay. I wrote it down in my little book, and I've probably filmed 8 episodes there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just the coolest thing. It's this guy by the name of Michael Bacon. I just spent a couple of days with him, and he used to be roommates with Cotton Cordell, and his father was fraternity brothers with Jack Smithwick, and he just knows all these guys. But anyway, so to go to see these places that are still up, that aren't getting any YouTube play at all. And what's kind of cool is if you go to them once and you kind of do, and they're always a little skeptical, like, what are you doing? Why are you filming? What do you want? And then you put an episode up, and then if I go back, you say, okay, what happened? And they go, oh, I got a call from Canada. Somebody ordered lures from Canada, or the one guy in Texas said, oh yeah, some guy drove 10 hours that weekend to come to my shop and bought out hundreds of dollars of stuff. So that was kind of cool. It's like, okay, yeah. So that was So that was pretty cool. So that's kind of what it's about. Is trying to put a spotlight on people that just aren't going to get a spotlight,
Yeah.
And I do that with some lure builders as well, just some independent guys, need to do more of that. But like, hey, just, guys kind of, they've got their little dream and they build something, but it's never going to get, because there's no dollars behind it, right? No one's going to sponsor them. No one's going to do a video about them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like almost my, I don't know, in a way, responsibility, I think, to kind of do that.
Heck yeah, man. I love it. I need to go back and watch some of those because
there's some good. I almost feel like I need to build a sort of like a tackle tour, like a t-shirt, like go to these places in these states.
There you go.
Like hit this. Yeah, there's different ones. There's a couple, and so I need to. So anytime someone's got, like, if there's a local tackle shop though near anybody, drop a comment. 9 times out of 10, I'll be there within a few months.
Oh wow, you travel a lot for work then.
So when I can do it, or if it's close, I will absolutely get in there. And again, I've had some people go, hey, you can, like, some people are just a little bit, because again, no one's been in there with a camera, so they don't know what's going on. But yeah. So sometimes like, hey, you can film this little corner of the shop. I'm like, okay, I'll film wherever. But
well, Jim F. tried Green's Marine in Lake City. They have a mixture of new and old baits. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not.
Lake City? No, what state is that in?
Yeah, help us out, Jim. Lake City, where's that? I thought maybe like he was saying it like you live nearby or something.
I don't know.
You could check it out. I don't know.
Love it.
Yeah, Lure Lab's like, hey, that would be a cool T-shirt. I'd buy one.
The old Retro Roadshow.
Oh, hey, Retro. Oh, there it is. You even got the name already. You've already been thinking about this. And you're driving all over for work. You're just thinking of ideas.
I'm like, yeah.
Oh man. Oh, we remiss if we didn't talk about the one that I've heard the most about. We'll talk about that one real second. But hey, if you got a lure you're like interested maybe on the backstory, or you got a nostalgic memory about, throw that in the comments. Or if you have a question for Chris, we'll go ahead and answer those as well. But the flying lure, what is the story? Because this one, yes, the book,
Alex Langner's flying lure. So I mentioned a lure that I think was, again, pretty brilliant in its design. But I think that at the end of the day, just like any lure that wants to catch everything from bluegill to blue marlin, everything from novice anglers to super experienced anglers, I think that's where the flying lure sort of went awry. It's a lure that, and if you don't know, it starts with this jig head. So here's the jig head, and Alex Langner designed this because his story was he was a bass fisherman and he would target fish under docks, under undercut banks, and he couldn't get to them. Right, okay. He's casting his lure, and the second you work the lure, it pulls away from the structure. So he wanted a lure that would get up underneath that structure. So he designed this jig head, which goes into this basically flattened tube, which is the flying lure.
There it is. And
the way this thing works is tied on a spinning rod. You cast it out there. The second it hits the water, it flies away from you, and it does. It actually works. It actually will fly away from you a couple feet on a light line. The trouble is, it was geared toward, hey, everybody can catch a fish with this. Well, look, this is not a chunk and wind bait like a rattle trap where you cast it out there and reel it in.
Right.
To work a lure on a slack line flying away from you is not really a Bassin 101 technique. And I think at the end of the day, that's probably what did this lure in. I think that if this had come out by another company, again, Jackal has one now. They have a bait that actually does the same exact thing as the flying lure. It flies away from you. I think Mike Iconelli talked about a similar bait, but to me, it was such a good idea. And again, it was the number one lure at one point. I mean, it was the infomercials, and it was the original hog trough, and probably the original as seen on TV bait. But I think the reason it didn't hold up long term was because it's a tough bait. You got to be a kind of an expert angler to really do good at this.
All right,
but that's the flying lure, yeah.
If they were making mention of this particular lure, but Lure Lab said, let me see, it was thin hooks. They straighten out so easily. Is that a problem on that particular one?
So thin hooks, and so another thing is when you think about these days fishing heavy cover, right? You're talking 50-pound braid, bait casters, heavy stuff. This is even the 4-incher. It's a finessey little bait. So I would say, yeah, I throw this thing on a spinning rod with like 30-pound braid. But even that, you're right, that's not the craziest hook out there. So yeah, so you almost would need like a flipping version of the flying lure. You could probably do some damage. And I think that's what a lot of the Japanese baits that came out with, whereas actually it's the same sort of design, but you can just rig it with a normal hook. But this thing absolutely catches fish. And I've caught fish on it.
It works great on pressured fish. Give them a little razzle dazzle, something they haven't seen before. Makes sense.
Yeah, but the one trick is though, as this thing's going away from you on a slack line, that's when the fish hits. So you've got to almost watch for that little pink as the thing's going away from you. So that's what makes it a little bit of a tougher thing to fish.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's see. We got a bunch of comments. We'll circle back here. We had a bunch of people. Let me see what we got here. Oh, we got a bunch of people telling you. Oh, Jim F got back to us. He said it's not far from you in Florida.
Ooh, nice.
Maybe an
I'll
hour
have
away,
to rewatch and write that place down. Thank you.
Greens Marine in Lake City. So there you go.
Nice. Lake City.
Bucktail says if you take McGregor Boulevard out to Fort Myers Beach, there's a few small tackle shops along the way. Can't remember the names. There are a few above Cape Coral and Madlacha too. I have no clue. Pete's Bait, Woonsocket, Rhode Island. Pete's Tackle. There's another one for you.
Nice.
In Lake City,
6 months of content. This is
great. I know, right? Jim said Lake City's less than an hour from Gainesville. So
rock and roll.
There you go. All right. Excessive B1. Where do you stand on the Kyogre blue Pokemon lore? Do you own that one?
I don't. I'm not a Pokemon guy. No.
What is the? So do you have any others for us? I'm curious.
So I do have a couple of, and so you sort of mentioned like, the channels about talking about lure builders that have been forgotten by time. So I mentioned Wayne Kent at Kent Lures or at Night Lures. It's another guy by the name of Dr. Lauren Hill. So during the 1980s, you could not open up a Bass Pro catalog without finding some of Dr. Lauren Hill's creations. So I'll go with maybe one of the lesser known ones from him. So he designed this crankbait.
Come on now.
This is you can see a deep diving crankbait. It looks like probably like a 20 plus.
Yeah.
I mean, it's and on the bill, off the bottom of the bill, it's got a little barrel swivel and a little blade.
But it's plastic.
So this is called the Chow Hound. And so Dr. Lauren Hill was a marine biologist, I think out of Oklahoma. And what this thing is supposed to emulate is a larger fish chasing a little bait fish in the water. So as you crank this thing down, this is supposed to emulate the bait that's trying to get away from the bigger fish, hopefully enticing a bass to hit the main crankbait. So isn't that one of the craziest things ever? I don't know how much that lip will help, but that would get down there deep enough into some bassy territory for sure.
All right.
Check that out. So Lauren Hill developed a lot of crazy stuff like that, but probably what he's most known for came out of some of his research as a professor, and it is this. So this is a box for something called the color selector. So not as seen on TV, but again, I would put it in the category of a gimmick lure at one point that was supposed to be the answer to all bass fishing. And there we go. So have you seen this before?
I've seen a photo. It's actually in a thumbnail photo, and I was like, I need to ask him about that because it looks like a ice fishing whatever it is. It
looks like So what this is, and I'll sort of tell the story. So basically, what Dr. Hill did in his research is he had a fish tank with different water conditions: so stained water, muddy water, clear water, and he had crawfish in the tank. And he would paint the crawfish different colors and see which ones bass hit during different light and water clarity conditions.
Okay.
And let's say, hey, the water's super muddy and it's kind of dark. Oh, they're hitting the orange or they're hitting the green. And from there, he basically came up with this whole system. So you dip this thing in the water. This meter will read and it will tell you exactly what color lure you should be fishing. Now, this would be great.
Hold on.
Yeah.
What are you putting in the water?
The sensor.
Does it measure turbidity?
So, this is a great question. Somehow this does measure for different clarities. It measures basically the sort of light that's coming in, right? Exactly, the turbidity. And it will then say which corresponding color the bass are most likely to hit.
Okay.
And now the trick is you need to have a color that matches. because this thing all of a sudden shoots to purple, and you're like, well, I don't have anything purple. So Dr. Lauryn Hill had a solution for that as well. And here's where the whole brilliance of the system came in of the color.
Buy all my lures in every color that I have on the color select. Yep. The mark.
So yes. So what he would do is you would say, and the funny part was, so you dip it in there. It never actually came up to like, green pumpkin with red flake. No. It was either red, orange, yellow, green, blue, or purple. I mean, those are the colors that it tends to go to. So here's the color selector. Not necessarily about matching the hatch.
For those on the podcast, what are we looking at here?
So we're looking at a color selector custom lure kit. And there's 3 lures in here. There's a Rebel crankbait. There's a Hedden tiny torpedo and a Cordell rattle spot, and they're white. But in
blanks.
it are 6 different markers. There's an orange, red, yellow, green, blue, and purple. So you use your color selector, you test what color the water is, and then you can color your tiny torpedo appropriately to match, not the
on
hatch
your boat,
per se, but
on your boat.
Or if you've just got the color selector tackle box like I do, you can open it up and see what color lure you want to fish with. So let's say all of a sudden you test out the old color selector and you go, oh, I need a flow red torpedo, or perhaps the yellow. So what's so wild about it is it's always a totally outlandish color. I mean, look at these. Not one of these looks like anything natural at all.
I think they was in the same meeting as the helicopter lure color selection.
I feel like it was in the same like when is it like, hey man, let's we need something that blue.
Yeah, that's what we need.
So pretty cool. But I will say I have used this on the episode as well, and we used the color selector, and I caught fish on it. And I know at one point Roland Martin sponsored this thing. A couple other guys did too. This was a real product. I mean, there was a time when Bass Pro Shops had a whole page dedicated to the color selector, the actual device, plus all the major lure builders kind of played off it. Everybody, all the Pradco guys, Bill Norman, some others, all had color selector style lures.
Wow.
Which again just kind of faded away over time.
Oh, what's brilliant about it is like, okay, you're gonna buy the color selector, and then it's gonna be worthless unless you buy my Sharpies, or worthless unless you buy the. How much did that kit run? Do you know the original prices on some of that stuff? Like the color selector?
That's a good question. Adjust for inflation. I mean, the thing itself, it was a piece of electronics. I mean, this is a few bucks back in the day. Yeah. And then the kits now probably go for more than they did at the time. But
wow. Let me see some of the comments over here. Lure Lab, did it work? Hey, you said you've caught some fish on them.
I did. I have caught some fish on them. But again, it never points to green pumpkin. It's so weird.
Never. It's weird.
It's always flow yellow. I don't know why.
Oh, neon green. Lawson Tackle says, I feel better about buying Sharpies. JL Waz, hey, it looks like a thermometer. Here's a good question. But before we do that, I noticed we have 130 people on right now between the 2 YouTube channels. So help us out. Hit that like button if you just got 2 seconds. It helps kind of push the reach after the show is over. And so we'd love for you guys to do that. All right. Lucas Flint has a good question for you. He says, I have some antique lures. How can I see, or how do you identify those? How would you go about? Because here's a perfect example. Someone in my extended family died, and they had a bunch of. I got 3 lures in this case. And this is one of them. It's like an OG spy bait.
Mm-hmm.
You ever seen that guy before? It's wood.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have this one, looks just like it. It's just different color.
Oh, yeah.
Old school spy bait. These are kind of bent a little bit. And then this thing, wild and crazy. I don't know if you've ever seen this before.
Looks like a Shannon spinner.
Is that what it is?
It could be.
It's got a hidden hook here. This is a weight.
That could be one of the
podcast.
Yeah.
I can't even explain this to you. It's basically got 2 blades on it. It's a 3-prong lure. It's got a big hairy skirt with a single hook, and it's weighted in the middle. So for those of you on the podcast are like, man, I just gotta go watch the video on this one because we're showing a lot of lures. But You think it's a what now? And do you know the story behind it?
So that looks like a Shannon twin spin, but again, I'm not an expert. So my wheelhouse, as you could probably guess, being sort of growing up in the 80s and 90s, is that genre of baits. The old
Yeah.
school wooden baits, those things, not so sure. That could be a Shannon twin spin. But
Okay.
as far as sort of how to identify lures, so it's kind of funny. But I ended up starting a little segment on the channel called Stump Retro, where people email me questions all the time. I get photos, photos of, hey, here's this lure I picked up from a yard sale or grandpa's tackle box. And they hit me up on Instagram or Facebook. So I started doing episodes where I'll post the lure itself and try to identify it. Now, I'm okay at identifying it, but I'm not like, you've got to be, it's so niche. There are some collectors who are like, hey, I know all about mill site lures. I'm really good into this. Or, hey, I'm really good into heading like it's so niche there. So the cool thing is the lure collecting community, there's people that I reach out to and say, hey, like, I'll call my buddy. D's Tackle Box is a great dude he's got like books upon books. And I say, hey, if I can't figure out what a bait is, I usually give him a call or somebody else or the NFLCC guys. But yeah, send a photo. Honestly, the cool thing is I think most people love to answer those kinds of questions if you see something, because it's about keeping that history alive, right? Because right now, if you don't know what the lure is, and you do get it from Grandpa's Tackle Box, not that we necessarily care, what it's worth or things like that, but it's kind of cool to know, the history of it, where the bait came from. And a lot of this stuff was definitely regional back in the day too. So what lures your grandfather fished with probably tell you a lot about what kind of fish your grandfather fished for and where he fished. And that's kind of cool too, because you probably can't ask him.
Right. I have I just realized at the beginning of the show, I asked you a question about the most expensive lure that you've ever seen. And somehow we got off track, but you got it in front of you. So,
well, okay. So not the most expensive lure that I've seen some lures. I saw one, this very rare heading river runt, which the owner of it said that it was for sale for the low price of, I believe, $3,000, which is you talk about categories of something a caster or a collector, right? That's one where that's now the number of buyers for that's pretty small. So I don't have any of that caliber, but recently there was a guy by the name of Fred C. Young, who was a lure carver back in the day. And, long before the alphabet baits that came out, all those, shallow diving, big body crankbaits, his was probably the most well-known. So he carved it, and he was actually laid up with a back injury. And his brother Otis would go out there and try different lures. He'd carve it, and his brother Otis would go out and try it. And one day Otis came back and said, "Hey man, this is the one." And so in his honor, he named it the Big O. And that's what this is. So this is called a Big O, and this is actually designed and carved by Fred C. Young.
Oh, wow.
He signed the bill, Big O. This thing has been repaired. And this was the start of the sort of fat-bodied, crankbaits, the shallow body ones. We see a ton of them. This style, Lucky Craft makes them. Just about everybody makes them, right? 6 cents. This was the first one. This is hand-carved. Eventually, Cotton Cordell would make a plastic mold of it, and it became the number one.
It came in an egg carton. Right.
And it came. And so he would sell these, and he would sell them in an egg carton. So this is an actual hand carved one. And this one was repaired. And so here's what's so crazy about this. So this bait was sent to me by my buddy Mark over. He has a Facebook page called the Big O Connection. It's a great place for the history of this bait. So I told him, I said, look, this is going to sound crazy, but I want one of these because I want to catch a fish on one. Now, if you go to like an NFLCC meeting and you pick up a lure like this and you tell them that you're going to catch a fish on it, this is probably, again, conservatively, this is probably a $300 bait here.
Wow.
People are going to think you're nuts. But I'm like, no, I want to get on film. I'm not going to go catch, a dozen bass on it, but I want to catch a fish on it. So he said, okay, I'll look for one. He found one that we call this a fisher. And I am going to, at some point, probably tie this thing on some 50-pound braid. Try to find a nice shallow lake without too many bowfin. and catch a fish on this thing, hopefully on camera. So that was it. So yes, this is a new lure in my collection, and I recently did get it repaired as well because the bill had suffered a little bit of damage. But this is a hand carved old school one that Fred Young used to sell in the old egg carton.
Yeah.
And it used to be, and so these baits would range, I would say. So on the low end, that's probably about as cheap as you're going to get for this bait. But then they go on up, depending on sort of the rarity, the color, how he signed the bait, how he didn't sign the bait.
Oh, interesting.
And that's one. So yeah, I'll definitely have to have the camera roll on, because again, there's a good chance, not a good chance, but there's always a chance something bad could happen on the lake. So before, I'll have to get a lot of footage of this thing on the front end too, just in case.
Love it. I have actually a set new in the egg carton upstairs in my garage. I don't know why I didn't bring it. I have all the colors. My uncle had them
that
in his garage sale, and I opened it up. And
are they plastic or wood?
Yeah, they're plastic. They're not wood.
That's still nuts.
You never seen this?
I mean, but the egg carton you don't see, so that's a tough bait. So
because it's all beat up. I mean, it's been around.
Do not throw that egg carton away. That's the whole deal, right there. Right. That's how Fred Young used to sell them, was in an egg carton. And that's a very.
I'm like, what in the world? They sit nicely in the egg. I didn't know the story behind it until now.
I want to see that. No, that's wild. You think the price of eggs is expensive now? Wait till you open up a box of Fred Youngs. Oh man.
No, if they're wood, no, that'd be something else.
I see braided up. Yeah, don't you worry. I'll be maybe that wire that's on that worm I sent you, something. I don't know. I do have a hound dog, by the way, as well. And yeah, I've used that for sure, because that's the trouble, is fishing with, lures that often I've got one or two of. Yeah, you don't want to lose them.
I like Jake Mixon's comment here. He said, 50 years from now, there'll be some grandkids disappointed in Temu lures. I love it.
At one point, I mean, there will come a day. Let's say my son Waylon takes over the channel. The Guggen baits could be, featured on the old RetroBassin show at some point. Oh
yeah, so. It's crazy. So you have a dream for your kids to take over your channel like I do?
You never know. Yeah, it's never gonna. Well, again, it's like the third generation tackle owner. It's just not gonna happen. But it's you can keep it alive.
I have a dream. I keep telling my kids, hey, by the time they're like 7 and 5, you're a Wendell, so you can take over Wendell fishing, and you could literally do this for a living if you actually enjoy fishing. And so I'm trying to I say it so much. My wife is like, okay,
yeah, right,
chill out a little bit. They're gonna be able to, but I have a dream. They can come home from work for me over the summers. I'm just trying to keep them around as long as possible. Come on, people.
So, all right, so I got one more. This is off to the side. So you see that?
Oh, electronic fishing lures.
See that?
Vortex.
So this was one. I need to bust this thing open. So these are lures that are electronic. They've got little batteries in them, which is super dangerous these days. But so this thing, I think, has a little LED light in it. And
look at the bill. Look at the eye on that. That's so unique looking.
And it's supposed to flash. Again, half of these lures, I wonder, does the gimmick scare more fish than it attracts? I don't know. But this is the old Vortex lighted lure. And
so it'll blink?
It blinks. It blinks. And this was kind of rip off of a bait from Smithwick called the Blinker. So Jack Smithwick had a number of different lures, the Rattling Rogue, the Devil's Horse, just really well-known baits. This was one of his ill-fated baits called the Blinker. And the package, this is new in the package, but it's a little bit beat up, so I'll show it to you. So it's got the eye, where that little green eye is, that's a light. So it's got two little lights, and there's a battery that you put in there. So this is a crankbait. I think that you screw it in. I think that the water probably makes the connection. And as you're reeling it, it's blinking. Again, anything to attract a fish, I guess, bells and whistles. So
that's kind of nice that there's two connection points, so you don't have to turn it off or turn it on.
I think that's the way. Otherwise, you'd be opening up. But that's the Blinker. I have not. I'm not sure if this one will still work. I'll probably just hang this up just because that's a pretty glorious little package. It's available for. It's Spivey Sports for $6.95. That's actually not super cheap for as old as this thing was. That's probably
back in the day. That's like
that's like a $50 bait. Look at that thing.
It really is.
The old Blinker. But I picked this up at an NFLCC show for I think like $4. I was like, ooh.
Oh,
so yeah, that's right. In some random hotel room. So
So where do you find these shows? Like, can this anybody? You have to be invited? Is it like a cult? Do you have to get a tattoo? What's going on?
I don't have the tattoo yet, but yeah, so it's NFLCC, and they've actually got a list of all the shows. And so part of, moving's been a little bit tough, but there's one coming up in Savannah, Georgia that I'm going to try to attend. And there's some guys who are going to go to that one, but I'd love to ideally get a booth, because you get a booth for like, I don't know, $10, $20. And then I could just hang out and meet people. And
I thought your booth was your like hotel room. What?
So you can do that too. That's like, so they have the before the actual show, which is in a convention center, they've got what's called room trading. And essentially, if you're willing to, bring your wares in your hotel room, you just, open up your door, you put a little, I don't know what you do. You put your trash can outside and you let people know you're open for business. So it's wild. And you go like, and me and my buddy Mark, we went floor to floor to floor. Okay, we're on the 5th floor. Oh, let's go on the 4th floor and see who's open. And you just run around, dropping cash, trading lures. It's like, yeah.
It's like trading cards with lures.
Oh, it's the coolest thing. Yeah.
Okay, I've never heard of that, and that is super exciting.
Well, if there's one in your neck of the woods, we're doing it. Oh yeah.
I have to check that out.
Usually like a Best Western or something.
So tell us, I know you're in the middle of a move. Well, you're at the end of a move, but what's the channel look like for you? And you got different direction or some things you want to focus on here at the end of 23? What do you got going on?
What's so interesting about the channel is so much of it is steered by the viewers, or the Bassin buds, as I call them. So, to me, I think the only real vision is, kind of trying to rekindle the glory days of bass fishing. Just that magic of again, some people, it's funny, there's a lot of like retro YouTube channels dedicated to, old school technology, right? Old school tape machines, old school toys. And for me, these are my toys. These are what I remember. So for me, that's kind of the only real vision is keeping true to that, just sort of rekindling the magic for A, those who lived it, and B, informing those who didn't live it. But as far as the direction of the channel, it's really about just honestly viewer input. Like, hey, what do you want to see me do? Yeah. I put out polls every once in a while. Hey, more tackle shops. Again, we got 3 or 4 tackle shops right there. Those will probably happen at this point. If there's some random lure, hey, and that's one where, hey, what about this lure? And it's something that's not on my radar. All of a sudden, I'll dive into that. Or if some old school lure builder. So yeah, that's it. And honestly, collectors too. There was a really cool show I did down in Corpus Christi, Texas. Yeah. This guy who was collecting old school bingo lures. It's an old saltwater lure. Okay. And his entire house, I only got to film for about 45 minutes. His entire house was dedicated to this one lure. He had every color. He had random colors. And I just followed him around, captured this. And, gentleman was, I think it is late 70s. So it was kind of cool to go down there and film it. And we did like an hour episode at his house.
Wow. So what gets someone so all in on just one lure? Like, what's the bro's story? Because that's fascinating to me.
So I think it has to do with specializing, because there's so much stuff out there. And it's sort of like with, again, music or anything that you're into. It can be overwhelming because there's so much there. So you kind of got to pick a genre and then a subgenre and then really drill in. I knew a guy who was really into head and river runt was his lure of choice.
Oh, the most expensive one.
That's the guy. He said one day he was in his basement. He had different collections and he spun around and he pointed at the river runs and he goes, okay, I'm going to collect that. And he got rid of everything else. And so I'm not that special. To me, it's more about, I'm just sort of a tourist when it comes to this stuff. So I kind of like a little bit of everything. Things that, to me, it's, I would say rebuilding that first Bass Pro Shops order that I made. I've done that pretty well, but that's kind of it. Or that first day on Buckskin Lake throwing, different lures for bass and things like that. So I don't see myself being super special. Plus, I need to probably get rid of some of this stuff too. So that's part of
it. You got to trade it. You got to trade it up. Get some new things.
You got to trade it up.
Chris, this has been freaking fantastic. We are over on time, but
love it.
If you guys have not yet done so, head over to RetroBassin. He's on Instagram. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube. I love your style and your delivery, and you got the Bill Dance sunglasses on. You do the shtick really well, and I'm just like, you take me back. And so, thank you for all you do. We're gonna have to have you on again sometime.
I think so. I think we've got to perhaps do a again. There's many chemical lures we haven't even talked about. So
heck yeah. So we'll bring them back sometime in the future. But hey, everyone, thank you so much Please hit the like button and have a fantastic week. We'll see you next week on the KFO show, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. See you guys later.